electrical current, how did I describe a magnet? An electromagnet is a loop that has electrical current flowing in it that generates a magnetic field. And for a theta patch, for a mirror, and for a tokamak, in that magnetic field, plasma gets trapped. So in the FRC, this electrical current is the plasma. And that plasma can generate its own magnetic field. And it's then trapped on its own magnetic field.
That's fascinating.
And that's the key. And so in your tokamak, in your donut, and in your funky donut, your stellarator, you make the magnet and you trap your plasma in it. In an FRC, you make the plasma, which makes the magnet, and it traps itself. And the craziest part of this, in my mind, is that we actually see this in nature all the time. If you look at the sun, we see solar flares. And in a solar flare, we've all seen the pictures of the photosphere of the sun and this large arc of plasma coming out. That plasma has current, electrical current flowing in it. And then we see this solar flare rip off of the sun. And that solar flare then can flow throughout and continue into the solar system. And for a little while anyway, it makes something called a plasmoid. That plasmoid is in fact electrical current flowing in the plasma to generate a magnetic field, holding it for longer than it would otherwise. So we've observed these for 100 years. And we've known about these plasmoids for a long time. And there's researchers that have tried intentionally to make them. But fundamentally, that's what we do every day, is make one of these self-organized closed field plasmas.
In a more controlled way, just rapid rate of 1/1,000,000th of a second, and being able to make sure it's reliable and stable and all that kind of stuff. So, by the way, how do you keep the thing stable?
And there's the hard part, because I just described a solar flare. And yes, we've seen the pictures of them, but we've also watched them, and they appear, they fly away from the sun, and then they go away. And that's not what we want in fusion, right? We want to be able to control this. And so that's the hard part of the job. And so that's what we've spent the last number of years learning how to do ourselves and others on these pulsed closed field FRC systems. Let's first talk about how to make them, and then we'll talk about how to make them stable, because they're two different things, and we spend a lot of time on both. So we talked about timescales. You have to reverse the field. You have to change the electrical current in a millionth of a second. And so how do you do that? So I've described this system as you have a series of magnets. You have a magnetic field on the outside. And then on the inside of this, you have this donut, this FRC, that has its own electrical current. And we didn't talk about this yet, but it's generated a magnetic field. And that magnetic field has pressure. And this is the other thing that's really interesting. So we talked about how this theta pinch compresses a magnetic field. It applies a pressure on the outside. But the plasma itself has a pressure on the inside. And it has both a particle pressure, literally the particles bouncing. Think about hot gas in a balloon. The particles expanding, the ideal gas law, expanding and contracting inside a balloon. But they also have a magnetic pressure. They have the electromagnetism is pushing back. And so I like to think about this as the motor in a Tesla. In your electric car, you have a motor, electric motor. And what that motor has is a series of windings. Those windings, you flow electrical current, in this case from a battery, hit the gas. Electricity flows from the battery into the motor, into those windings, and it generates an electromagnetic force. A Lorentz force is what it's technically called. This electromagnetic force induces an electrical current on the armature, on the shaft. And this is getting into the details, but into the armature of an electrical motor that actually is what spins. And so the outside of a motor doesn't spin. You flow electrical current through it, and the inside does spin. That electromagnetic force is what is spinning that armature. In our case, we're inducing an electrical force in that electromagnet, and that's putting electrical current, just like in the armature, into that plasma. And we can use that force to do interesting things. So that electromagnetic force can compress the fusion plasma, it can expand the fusion plasma, but here's the problem. It's unstable. And so this is something you learn very early in your graduate work as a student in fusion, is you learn about plasmas that are called high beta plasmas.
So I keep seeing this plasma beta thing everywhere. What what is this ratio of plasma field energy to confining magnetic field energy? Please explain.
plasma beta is the ratio of the magnetic pressure to the particle pressure. And so what that fundamentally means is I talked about how you have a magnetic field. And in that magnetic field, plasma is trapped on that magnetic field. But it's not very well trapped. It can escape. It can leave either down the ends, it can freely travel, or it can also travel across the magnetic field. And so we have a term of plasma beta, which gives us an understanding of how well trapped that plasma is. So as you apply a magnetic pressure, a magnetic field to this plasma, it pushes back. And does it push back a little, or does it push back a lot? And for a field reverse configuration, one of our plasmas, beta is very close to 1. In fact, usually, by definition, 1 at any point in the system, which means that every time I apply a magnetic force on this donut, compress it, the plasma particles on the inside push back. And what's really interesting is you have an equation for magnetic pressure, which is B squared over 2 mu naught. The magnetic field squared is the external magnetic pressure. Any magnetic field anywhere generates pressure. But the plasma particles themselves also have a pressure. This is the ideal gas law. And we use the definition in kT, density, Boltzmann constant, and temperature for pressure. And in high beta, they're the same. B squared over 2 mu naught is in kT. So for a known magnetic field, I know what the density and the temperature of the plasma is. And just to circle back to it, we talked about fusion. We talked about it had to be hot enough and it had to be dense enough. And that's in and that's T. So now I have a very clear equation between magnetic field, density, and temperature of the fusion fuel. And that's really critical. All fusion plasmas have some beta, some number. The FRC has one of the highest betas, beta equals 1. However, what you also when you learn about beta the first time is you learn that high beta plasmas are typically unstable. And so the good way to think about this is a tokamak an accelerator are stable because those plasmas that are going around in the donut, there's a force on that donut. But that plasma donut is very well held by all those magnetic fields, by all those magnetic coils. If it tried to move, it would be confined by that magnetic coil. But an FRC is unconfined. The plasma is confined, but the whole topology can do something is that this whole plasma donut, because it's under pressure, can just turn over. The way I think about this is think about the motor is a good example. In armature, in the center of your motor, you have a spinning armature. You have this spinning magnet on the side, and it is held by the main axis of the magnet. It can't go anywhere. We don't have that axis. We don't have any mechanical things inside these fusion systems. They're 100 million degrees. You can't put any mechanical things inside them. And so we have nothing to hold on to it. And so it's unstable. So when you learn about the FRC, that's